What skills are we going to need to make medtech future proof, sustainable, and competitive? This is a question I get asked a lot. And I recently held a keynote in Ireland with Skillnet MedTech Ireland on this topic. So I just want to give you the insights that I have from that. So, number one, why should we even care? Why don't we just do things as we have always done them because it worked so far. Why should we care? So I think there are four forces of sustainability and strategic transition to a greener economy. And those four forces are: number one is the self commitment, which I had here as a SBTI commitment. And those commitments, they come from investor pressure. So 60% of medtech is already committed to the Science Based Target Initiative, which is a carbon reduction plan for the company. And what we see is that 95% of the emissions are in scope 3. So you should care about the materials, you should care about your design. The second thing is competitive pressure. So what we see and what we've also recently saw on different trade fairs is that as soon as a competitor has something on the market, like the fear of missing out is real. So you don't have to ask yourself, like, will this be bought by a customer? Because you know, like, your competition is already selling it. And it is a key advantage for your competition if they have something sustainable on the market and you don't, because you take 2 to 3 years to develop that and to get it on the market. So, like, this is a very big driver. But this has a feedback loop with the customer pressure. So hospitals equate sustainability usually with the topic of waste and waste reduction. And where you see a lot of single-use waste, you see a lot of pressure towards medtech companies to be more sustainable. And don't kid yourself, like, price and performance are still the most important criteria, but sustainability is going to be the tiebreaker. So if you have something that is as performing and as costly or cheap as your competitor, and you have it more sustainable, you'll get the tender. It's 100% this way because people want to be more sustainable, and like, you just have to remove all the friction from being more sustainable. And then last but not least, it's going to be the regulations. Like, I think that 40-50% of medtech are only going to be moved by regulations because we've always done it like this. And if the competition, the customers and self commitments are not going to move them, regulations are. And with those four forces, it's basically inevitable that by 2030-ish, sustainability is not going to be a nice to have, it's going to be a must have in your product. So you probably have like one development cycle left where you can still like ignore the topic. And I just want to hammer the point home with the following two slides again. So these are all the companies that are SBTI committed, very, very big corporations. And as said, they have a rough turnover of 320 billion US dollars. And that is around 60% of the medtech market, which means they are going to reduce the carbon, which also means that they will force their supply chain to reduce the carbon emissions. And the point is, and this is the second thing I want to bring up here, is that this is a study of Swiss Medtech, where they did an analysis of 7 model companies. Not a perfect sample size, but we'll take it. And what they found is that 48% of the total carbon emissions are materials, scope 3.1, and then the use phase is going to be 43%. So the biggest two levers by far is use time, which is usually energy, so the energy efficiency of your electrical medical device, or gases or fluids that are used. And the most important one is still material. So if you do a consumable, it's gonna be number one is material. And scope 1 and 2, like all the electric cars, all the solar panels and the green electricity, that's scope 1 and 2. So it's like, that's not that it doesn't matter, but the biggest lever by far is material. So this is why you should change the product. And although it is the holy cow, instead of focusing on the bees and the solar panels, so to say. So how do we tackle this? And I put in Mountaineer on purpose because you're now in the valley and you want to climb a 4,000-meter summit, and it's going to be difficult, it's going to be harsh, it's going to be windy, and you do not know how to get there. And change is required, but the change is pain. And we know why change is pain in medtech, because like everything takes forever. Documentation makes it even harder. That it's a mountain of documentation, and everyone plays it safe. It's like I recently coined the phrase medtech angst, which is a riff on the German angst. Medtech is always gonna go for the worst case and not for a realistic worst case. It's like we played ultra safe so that we never ever come into challenge the status quo. And luckily enough, this problem has been solved. And I want to present to you lean startup methodology. It's like the only way to win is to learn faster than everyone else. This is from Eric Ries in the Lean Startup. And I really subscribe to the Lean Startup methodology because it's a very efficient way of optimizing for whatever KPI you have. It's scientific method of entrepreneurship, I would say. And I think there are four key components to how to get the decision speed and the speed of innovation to where we want to have it. Because, and you might be surprised that I bring speed of innovation up when we're actually talking about sustainability, but sustainability is only going to come about if we change your products, if we change your materials. And we can only do that by increasing the speed of innovation. Because if we are staying at this current speed of change, which is very slow, we're not going to make it. So if we can bring down the development cycle by having a faster decision speed, by having a faster innovation speed, then we can achieve sustainability. And sustainability means profit, patient, and the planet. So like the holy trinity of sustainability. And those four components that I was speaking about was culture, technical expertise, systems, including AI and documentation systems, and then regulatory expertise. And if you can build all four, like you're golden. You're gonna crush your competition. And speaking of crushing your competition, why should I care? It's like who's done this and what's the proof? I think the proof that sustainability can be a strategic advantage is right there. It's like I know I'm a very fanboy of Ambu, but I really think that Ambu has taken a generational bet, and until now they're winning it with their sustainable single-use endoscopes. And in 2009, they launched their first single-use flexible bronchoscope, which is an endoscope for the lungs. And they designed it white on purpose to make it recyclable in the future. In 2009, they designed for recycling, And until now, sustainability has become a core part of their value offering. So it's a key part of their strategy. And today, as of today, 2026, 33% of all US bronchoscopies procedures are done with Ambu endoscopes. That's a success story right there. And single-use endoscopes are projected to have a yearly growth rate of 15 to 20% projected to 2030. So very, very high growth market. And this has been achieved over 15 years plus of sustainability leadership. So if we want to be like Ambu, what you need to do is you need to challenge the status quo. And how do you do that? Let's start with culture. So let's start with what not to do in the current state of the art. And that's not difficult to beat. It's like you may have to climb a summit, but it's actually very easy. Just go up until you're there and don't go down or don't go in the other direction, or just don't stand where you are currently. So what the growth mindset is not, it's like, it's not possible. Like that has never built anything. We have always done it like this. It's like my favorite one. It's compliant, don't fix it. It's like that's even a little bit malicious. So you even know that you need to fix it, but it's compliant, so you don't. That's not my responsibility. I do cringe every time I hear this. It's like it's just like, oh, that's not mine. It's like if it's not yours, if everybody thinks like this, it's never getting solved. And then sustainability sits in corporate. It's like it's, I would say, a variation of the last one. And then what is also my favorite is, oh yeah, we agree that this is going to be done, but let's just have a pre-meeting for the impact assessment of the concept phase for the strategy development program that we're going to finish in 3 years' time. So the analysis by paralysis thing, and like especially very big corporations tend to do it like this, so that we have to have an alignment of 16 different people, and that only in the plenum we can take the decision. That is not what a growth mindset is. What mindset then actually is required? So the mindset that is required is to optimize the rate of learning and decision making. If you can do that, the problem will be solved. And decision speed and innovation speed has been solved by the lean startup methodology. There's 5 key principles that summarize the lean startup methodology. Number 1 is build, measure, learn. It's like the term minimal viable product is the one term that is abused very, very much, because it's misunderstood. It's like it's not an ugly product. It's not something that is embarrassing or that is inherently unsafe. It is something that is designed to generate the most amount of validated learning. Because most of medtech developments and most of developments overall are based on assumptions. We assume that this market is going to need this product. And if we are going to ask a bunch of surgeons if they want this product, they say yes. That is a bad minimal viable product. Just questionnaires is a bad minimal viable product. What you can do is you can ask them to sign a letter of recommendation to their hospital that they will want to buy this product if it comes available on the market. It's a much better minimal viable product. That doesn't even mean that you have to give them a product to operate. It's just like you show them drawings and you show them principles or videos of how that would work. And then you get them to commit an investment to it. That doesn't mean it has to be monetary. It can also be like a letter of recommendation or pre-order or whatever, And then continuous deployment. So we want to change the product continuously, and we want to use the power of small batches. So we try to make experiments as small as possible. So we maybe go to 1 or 2 or 3 hospitals instead of making a 500 nationwide or global rollout before we even, in order to have faster feedback mechanisms and in order to learn as fast as possible. Then we need innovation accounting. So what are the KPIs that we need to do and that we need to measure in order to definitively decide, is this going to move the needle for clinical, for cost, for patient or medtech healthcare professional behavior? And then in the end, the thing that always is getting lean principles stopped in medtech is, but that is going to be unsafe. Experimentation doesn't mean sacrificing quality or safety. It just does mean that we try to strip as much requirements out of the product as possible to learn what we want to achieve. And that is the key principle here. That is actually the key principle here. We want to maximize learning, because if we can maximize learning, that is going to get us the skills that we need, get us the understanding that we need, because most assumptions are wrong. Good. So what are good and tested rules and principles to increase decision speed and speed of innovation? So a rule I really like is that if you're not contributing in a meeting, you just leave. Because, there are so many people that just go to meetings to look busy. And I don't think that this is a very productive use of your time. It's a colleague of mine used to say that's like, I can't work because I'm working so much. And that is definitely a phenomena that happens a lot because you are just stuck in alignment meetings or in meetings where you're not contributing, which really brings down productivity and the total amount of hours that you have available to you. Then if the decision is reversible, just take it. It's like, this is the Amazon principle. This is what Jeff Bezos employs. It's like, if there's a two-way door, you just go through it, because you can always go back. It's like, if it is about pouring concrete or cutting steel, that's not reversible, so you should think about it a little longer. But if it's a decision that can be reversed easily, you just take it. It's just, don't care about the embarrassment that this is going to bring you, because if you work in small batches, you can also, like, if you roll out the system for 5 people, it doesn't work, you reverse it because you've learned it doesn't work, then it really does not hurt you that much, because you have learned something. Failure is always an opportunity to learn. Then if you don't know you're competent enough to take the decision, you just take the decision. That is a rule that was employed by a former employer of mine. And this was my favorite rule. If you don't know if you can decide, then you just decide. It's a very good rule, makes the speed of decision a lot better. And then don't burn 5 meetings to take a decision. Just run an experiment. Like, agree on an experiment that would give you the data that enables a decision. And then I think, coming to the two most important points, leadership has to stand behind this. Because if you don't get air cover from leadership, this just doesn't work. It's like, leadership has to hold everybody accountable. And it doesn't matter what cool values and strategy you have written on the wall. Nobody cares if it's not enforced. Like, culture eats strategy for breakfast, because culture is the lived values that are the implicit rules by which you live. And what do you get away with is part of your culture. If you get away with not taking a decision and stalling projects for months, then this is part of your culture now. And if you're not held accountable for it, like, that doesn't help. So I am very much for bottom up approaches, because I think they are inherently also backed by more lived experience and data. But air cover from leadership is so important. If you don't have that, it's going to fail. Then let's come to skills. Like, I talked 20 minutes about what skills to build, and we finally have arrived. What capabilities do you need to build in order to be competitive in the future? And this is basically the answer to the title question. I think the most two important skills have nothing to do with material and sustainability. It's going to be the baseline in medtech, and it's going to be AI. I would strongly advise you to have a company-wide learning mandate and an AI first approach, because AI is going to change fundamentally how we work. And the second thing is a database first approach. I think that engineers spending more than 50% of their time on documentation is unbearable for medtech. We need to make sure that those resources are used to innovate and not to document. Then I would rapid fire the 4 ones. I would implement the structured material selection process. If you need help with that, that's like our main jam. I really think that structured material selection is going to make so much of a difference, also for lean development. Then build up an LCA know-how, so that you have basic ideas how to calculate the carbon footprint, how to calculate the life cycle assessment of a product, so that you can actually measure what you're building. And then implement an eco design process that will help you get your environmental footprint and your cost down, and combine that with lean principles and build, measure, learn feedback loops. That's we have a video on that on our 11-step eco design framework. Then you should build regulatory expertise in terms of sustainability regulations, but also in terms of medical device regulations, because both of them have a lot of, let's say, half knowledge, and this half knowledge leads to the wrong decisions. If you don't understand the PPWR, if you don't understand the MDR or the IVDR or what the FDA wants, you're always going to one up it. You're always going to one up what the regulatory requirements actually want. And then with that, you're going to over engineer, and you're going to have leap of faith assumptions that are not valid, that do not work in real life. And with experimentation, you can, like, experimentation can also be like, go read the MDR. That can also be a part of the experimentation. So a leap of faith assumption is we cannot use, or we can use recycled material in a medical device. And then you go test that leap of faith assumption against the MDR, and you go read it, and then you find that it's actually possible. It's not impossible to do so. If you implement those capabilities, you will have smoother audits, you will have projects with lower risk, you will have a better time to market and better value proposition and faster decisions. So competence makes speed. And the same thing goes for documentation. So I want to deep dive into documentation and AI. The database first approach works like this. You have a structured material database, and then you have reports, and you put them, like you separate them, meaning you will have structured data like IDs, like test cases, whatever, and then you have reports. If you have 17 Excels to edit, then you need to edit 17 Excels to edit an ID. Let that through your approval process, have a 4I principle, and you take 2 weeks and probably like 3 hours of work to release that. If you do it in a database, then it's gonna be like click of a button, like 2 minutes, And with that, you will be able to have your R&D not spend 50% of your time in documentation, and you let the Ferraris out of traffic. Like, let them innovate. Let the engineers are here to innovate and to develop new product. Just don't hold them back with documentation or with the minimal amount of needed documentation in order to make a good medical device development possible and to support the regulatory that is needed in the future. So the outcome will be that engineers and quality will trust your documentation and will trust your product. Trust leads to confidence, and confidence leads to speed. Like, I can make an example. If you have an auditor come on site and say, but you need to do this in your documentation, and this is wrong, this is missing. It's like, that might be 1,000 or 2,000 hours of work right there if you're letting them get away with it. If they're right, yes, of course, you need to do it. But if you're not competent in regulations and you're not confident in your documentation, you will just say yes because you just want to get out of that audit. But if you can challenge them on the basis of argumentation and say, yeah, but we have done this and this test, and we have documented it here in here. We thought of it like this, and we think this is valid, like we do it in our documentation. You might convince the auditor to not have you do 1,000, 2,000 hours of work. So confidence is gonna equal to speed. Then AI. So I think AI is gonna be an augmentation and will fundamentally make the way we work different. I think the boring documentation work, things that can be automated, that will be done by AI, and humans will decide and lead and quality assure. And what is important to make this work in medtech is we need data and processes. That is good news for us, because if we already did a lot of documentation, if we already gathered a lot of data, that helps us unlock the whole power of AI, and that really makes it a tool to be reckoned with. Also gives smaller companies an equalizer. It's like a slingshot with David and Goliath. AI makes smaller companies have the output of big companies without the big budget and the many people. That is going to be extremely valuable for startups. Then take the resistance that you have to AI seriously, because you're gonna be confronted with the following phrase: but what do I do then? Because this is what I do all day. It's like, that is what we heard in a bunch of workshops. It's like, we showed them how to use AI, and then it was like, oh, but that is what I do all day. So what is left for me? You will go from execution to quality assurance. It's not going to be that you are going to be doing the documentation, but you're going to review it and you're going to lead the AI to execute better. Your job is now process improvement. Then what about IP and data security? Like, there are solutions out there, dedicated service, your own models. You can do that. You don't need to use ChatGPT for everything, and that is sensitive. There are solutions, and there are a lot of providers that are very happy to work with you. What I can recommend is the AI in MedTech podcast with Professor Christian Joner. And he is at the time, I think he's capable of reviewing a full technical documentation within 10 minutes, meaning that what took days and weeks before can be now done within minutes. So, and reviewers are using this technology in this way. So notified bodies will employ AI in checking your technical documentation. Yeah, and if you want to stay tuned, we are building a AI agent for plastic selection. The goal is to come from 6 weeks down to 2 hours of recommendation time. So if you're interested in that, let's talk. And let's come to the end. Let's come to the homework. I think you should do the following four things. Number one is you should read or listen to The Leader's Guide by Eric Ries, which is the newest edition of, or the newest book in the series of the Lean Startup. So like, you have the Lean Startup, then you have the Startup Way, and then you have the Leader's Guide, which is like, how do you employ Lean Startup methodology in big corporations? And I think this is really what will help you get to that innovation speed that you need in order to make products more sustainable. Then use AI, just start. Don't get stopped by excuses. I think this is the main message of Professor Yoner. And then you should make documentation an enabler and not a dead weight. You should go to a database first approach and make documentation easier to change, because change management is one of the biggest, like, say, inhibitor of change. And then in the end, if you want to be more sustainable, like everybody who has worked 2 or 3 years in a medtech company, you know where your bodies are buried. Like, you know which process, which thing, which product is going to be the biggest lever, and you're not going to touch it because it's compliant. Don't fix it. I can give you an anecdote in the end. It's like, I was approached by an engineer who said a customer of ours is a big medtech company. They have 40% scrap rate, and we are producing like 100 tons of scrap, like 200 tons of scrap every year, and they don't want to change it because it's compliant and it works. So what do we do with this high quality material? Like an OEE of 60%, there's where your body is buried. Like, you can try to change that process and try to improve that process so that your scrap rate goes down. Like, there you have your wins, your cost savings, your sustainability savings. And where your body is buried, or where your bodies are buried. So go look at them and go dig them up and take care of them. So in the end, let's talk. This is only one aspect of sustainable medtech. So I've reserved time for you. Like, this is continuous. So you can just scan this QR code and book a call with me. It's 45 minutes, 100% free. How it works is, like, you scan this, you select the time and book a slot, and then you show up with your questions, and I'm going to answer them. This is a very hopefully generous offer, and I hope to see you there, and I hope that I can help you form a better world with plastics. Good. So if you like the video, like, comment, and subscribe. YouTube will show you more content like this because you liked and subscribed to it. And if you have any questions that I can answer, or you have video requests, you can leave them in the comments, or you can just book a call. Thank you very much. And, for those who stayed on until the end, I have some memes for you. Good. So the lean startup methods for faster, cheaper, and more sustainable product development. MedTech, yeah, we don't do that here. It's like, I really love that one. Then, the mindset change is not going to be the one that MedTech is going for. AI will solve everything. And then lean startup methods are applicable to MedTech. Yeah, shut up. They hated Jesus because he told them the truth. And then this is the last one. MedTech, we can't use AI because of data security and IP. It's like, yeah, notified bodies are deploying AI in technical documentation review. Good. So thank you very much for watching, and until the next time.